and welcome back to the Scottish Gaming Rebels. I'm everybody's favourite host, the Skinny Rebel. Today's video is taking quite a turn from our usual Indie Monday review. Today's review will be on 2021 Guardians of the Galaxy, which is just released on Xbox Game Pass. But before we get into today's review, I would like to shout out Reaper's Rebels over on Twitch, which is run by yours truly. Every Tuesday I stream Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 or Warzone, and every Thursday I stream Rainbow Six Siege. Both these are scheduled to at 7pm till 9pm GMT. So without further ado, let's crack on with today's video. After stumbling out the gate with 2020's Avengers, Square Enix has managed to steady the ship with Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. For the story alone, the game is well worth playing, but it's the abundance of lore, well-written dialogue and gorgeous locales that elevate it as one of the best Marvel games to date. Guardians of the Galaxy expected the hell out of me. I expected standard blockbuster action RPG, fair painted with an 80s nostalgic gloss that would never be illicit in emotion, more meaningful than cool. We got the right to Blondie. Clearly the developers at Eidos Montreal did indeed the rights to Blondie and an impressive host of other 80s mainstays. I was shocked to discover a game that had so much heart and emotional depth that on several occasions I caught myself whispering a reverent damn at the screen. Though combat can be a bit of a slog, every Guardian and just about every non-Guardian so well written and voiced, you don't mind toughing it out and getting the juicy character development bits. Despite the monumental success that Marvel brand has and in the world of cinema and TV, it has rarely seen success replicated in video game format. 2000s were awash with subpar movie tie-in games. After a long period of hibernation, Square Enix finally announced the game that we've all been waiting for in Marvel's Avengers. As we know, however, the game failed to live up to its hype after being bogged down by bugs, repetitive gameplay and the design that favoured the live action service model where long-term profit is king. It is precisely because of Avengers' failure that when a video game adaptation of Guardians of the Galaxy was announced, the industry, myself included, responded with a healthy dose of scepticism. Having now finished the game over a 14-hour playthrough, I'm very pleased to report that Square Enix developed Eidos Montreal have done right by the Guardians. Here's why. Unlike Avengers, which had a blend of single player and multiplayer modes, Guardians of the Galaxy is an offline experience only, and it's all better for it. By foregoing the need of a multiplayer component, Eidos Montreal has managed to focus more of its time on developing an endearing story that you simply won't want to put down. When the game begins, our titular group is still in its relative infancy, having started out as a trio consisting of Star-Lord, Peter Quill, Rocket and Groot. The gang has recently allowed two new recruits to join their forces, Drax the Destroyer and Gamora, frequently referred to as the deadliest woman in the galaxy. In the game's earlier chapters, the Guardians are a frayed bunch at best, largely sticking around because they have nowhere else to go. But when they're lumped with the trespassing fine from Novacorp, Space Police to you and me, it isn't long before the Guardians stumble across a sinister power, completely decimate the galaxy as they know it. It won't spoil exactly where the narrative leads, as I do believe that Guardians of the Galaxy is the best story of any Marvel game to date, but there's a good chance that your playthrough might differ how mine turned out. Much like the Telltale games of old, there's a great deal of choice and player agency weaved into the narrative. Some of the decisions you make having the ability of opening up or even withholding certain story beats. I won't say who it was, but the game's credits inform me that I'd failed to cross paths with a certain character based on how I chose to play. Don't expect anything quite as detailed as something the Quantic Dream might pull out, but I will say there's something more than enough branching paths here to warrant at least a second playthrough of Guardians of the Galaxy. Not the least because you might want to go back and discover hidden items. Guardians of the Galaxy has absolutely nothing to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and just barely kisses comic continuity. Though some of the characters' backstory produced in the movie still apply. Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, still a man plucked from Earth in the 80s, who lived near wildlife in space before cleaning up his act. Gamora is the face-turned-adopted daughter of Thanos. Drax is a widowed warrior from the planet Katath, who is incapable of understanding sarcasm. Rocket is a space experiment gone wrong or right depending on perspective, and Groot is still the trisyllabic tree creature whom only Rocket understands. We catch up with the Guardians 12 years after the end of the intergalactic war that saw Thanos and the ruthless Chitauri Empire defeated. You play as Peter Quill, pilot of the spaceship Milano, and leader of the newfound Guardians of the Galaxy, a mercenary group that will do literally anything for money. Peter's friends or colleagues are prickly, egotistic people who are still getting to know each other, and it's your job to keep them in line as best as you can as you bumble your way through them, ruining and saving the galaxy. The characters in this game are amazing, and I love every one of them. Even the ones who didn't really care for them in their movies, avoid infringing the actors' likenesses, and all the characters that look like Walmart brand versions of their movie counterparts. It was off-putting at first, but I came to prefer my Uncanny Valley Guardian lookalikes. Drax the Destroyer never moved my needle, if you know what I mean. Dave Bautista is a good looking guy, but I just wasn't attracted to his Drax. I know the game Drax has the same incredibly dry personality and mostly the same look as movie Drax. There's a tenderness to him that we just didn't see in the movies. The extreme aggression and violence, just a smokescreen hiding a man still quietly mourning the murder of his wife and child by Thanos. Early in the game, you frequently have to defend Gamora, his family's murderer's daughter, against him, correcting him when he calls her assassin instead of her name. By the end of the game, all the Guardians have broken down their toughest prickliest, but Drax starts calling Gamora by her name, all on his own. He says one of the sweetest lines I've ever heard in a video game, saying if they die on their quest, he'll ask his god if there's room for his friends in his heaven. Naturally, I felt instantly in love. It also doesn't hurt that Drax is a physically competent himbo who's always moving or chucking heavy objects while shirtless. Let's just say Drax could destroy me at any time. Rocket Raccoon was another surprise for me. Early in the game, you have an option to throw Rocket like a football across a chasm so you can hack a panel that will create a bridge so you can get across. Rocket naturally objects to this treatment. If you choose a throw option like I did, Rocket is furious, not because of the bodily harm, but because you violated his autonomy. Rocket Raccoon is a Looney Tune. He's a full-mouthed raccoon. Rocket Raccoon is a Looney Tune. He's a full-mouthed raccoon that makes things explode. Haha, very funny. It's easy to dismiss him as a joke, which is exactly how he's treated in the movie, and it would have been very easy, expected even, for the game to continue to lean into that characterization without any examination and how Rocket feels about it. So he has the appearance of a tiny, garbage-eating woodland creature. The game Rocket refuses to let people treat him as less than human. The moment is a really good example of the game's choice/consequence system, because when you throw him, Rocket won't let you forget it, and he makes you feel like you're a piece of jobby, which if you do throw him, you kinda are. Choices in this game is really well done. The game treats your decisions with enough weight to make them feel like they matter without also throwing in cool change-up and choice presentation. Like most games with a choice mechanic, options are presented as dialogue box or a timer. The game pauses and you have so many seconds to make a choice before action resumes with a little character will remember that box, aka the Telltale games of you. In the game, in the middle of combat, Gamora says she's going to chase after escaping the bad guy. In this situation, there's no stopping and no dialogue box, therefore I didn't know there was a choice to be made at the time. The battle arena was set up so you could follow after Gamora, or you can continue the fight with Rocket, Groot and Drax. Wanting to back up my friend, I chased after her. The platform I was running on exploded, throwing me into what would have been a fall to my death, but Gamora rushes to save me, thus denying her the chase. Then a box popped. Gamora is furious she didn't let her chase the bad guy. I was stunned, unaware I was making a decision here. Impressed by the way Eidos Montreal switched up how the choice was presented, changing it from expected piece of text. Select picking off a list of something you make your character do. The characters are alive in Guardian, and it makes them the game's biggest appeal. The characters are alive in Guardians of the Galaxy, and it makes them the game's biggest appeal. They react to what you do and the choices you make. Gamora frequently brought up me not trusting her to go after the bad guy alone, and if you wander off to explore some hidden nook or cranny looking for one's game's many collectibles, they call you out on it, chiding you for wasting time. Combat is the least enjoyable part of the game, but it isn't too big of a deal breaker. As Peter, you're equipped with pistols that shoot elemental bullets, and you can also command your Guardians, having them execute one of the 3 standard abilities or special super moves. Once you've mastered the stagger system, elemental properties and issue command, combat becomes a rote experience to a largely endured rather than enjoyed. There's just enough variety in enemies' weaknesses, environmental hazards and abilities that stringing together successful combos isn't terribly repetitive. Combat isn't just where this game shines. Enemies aren't difficult, they're time consuming, and when the game chains battle sections back to back that are filled with the biggest, beefiest monster types, it gets to be a slog. There's a particularly unforgivable sequence towards the end that was a never-ending corridor of battle arenas with no platforming sections of interspersed to break up the action. It was the most tedious part of the game. I also did not love the controls. It was too easy to get my wires crossed, triggering a huddle when I meant to direct Rocket to throw a grenade. Huddles are ultimate abilities that buffs either you or all your party depending on the dialogue choice you make. Started out as cute little treat, quickly became very stale. In a game that is extremely good with how characters respond to events in their context, those are a strange aberration. The Guardian's comments are never appropriate to the battle, and if you trigger one during a boss fight, they don't even mention who you're fighting. Huddles are also an unexpected source of hilarity. In addition to proving a buff and heal for the party members, the Huddle will also play a song with the aforementioned 80s hit list, totally random. I don't know about you, but when I think of 80s hot-bodied pick-me-up song, I'm not thinking about Bad Reputation, I'm thinking about Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. The game agreed. Frequently in my entire playthrough, I never once got Bonnie Tyler's Holding Out for a Hero. After a huddle, even though there was a song that played during every one of the game's promotional videos, I held out for a hero and nobody came. Like many, I enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy movie more than I thought I would. It's the same for Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, but it would have been easy to stretch the skin of a typical superhero movie plot, the bones of a standard action game, and call it a day. Kinda like the most Marvel's Avengers, but Guardians defied being lifeless, flesh hulked instead of being a living, breathing creature with a heart that beats and bleeds all over the screen. So guys, with that, I would rate this game around a 9. No really reason it's a 9, I just what I decided to rate it for today. But as I said earlier in the video, make sure you check us out over on Twitch, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. GR, over and out.